As Mrs. Benson mentioned, we feel like we absolutely got the right guy and the right person for this job, for the right fit at the right time for our team. I'd be remiss if I didn't start this by thanking Alvin Gentry. Alvin, in the time that he was with us, represented our team in this community at the highest level. We're very appreciative. And more importantly, we're very appreciative of the fact that Alvin shared very positive thoughts with this organization in terms of our ability to move forward and build a winner with all of our different coaching candidates. And I think in large measure, that helped us land the pool that we were getting to look at of candidates. Trajan and I have talked about that. We were benefited by having an incredible pool of candidates that wanted this job, and in no small measure, he was a part of that. So we thank him for that. Relative to Stan Van Gundy, this is a process where Trajan, Swin, Bryson Graham, and myself, and many others of our front office team interviewed 9 total people in one fashion or another. We set up a criteria, very clear criteria that we cared about for what we were seeking in the next head coach, and we took a great deal of time to do that. We've talked to many of you offline from a media perspective, explaining why we were not in a hurry. And as fate would have it, maybe the season's going to be on us sooner than we thought. But the reasons for that were multifold, and one of them was we wanted to take enough time to really analyze our team, get a feel for who we felt like we really were, and do that without the sting of what had just happened in the bubble sort of resonating daily with us. We wanted to give ourselves a real opportunity to know who we were and what we needed. And I think what we very quickly discovered in our interview process was that Coach Van Gundy gave us the best possible optionality. Coach Van Gundy, in his 22-year coaching career as an assistant and as a head coach, 12 years as a head coach, has proven he's a coach who's going to win an awful lot of regular season games, winning almost 66% of his games in Orlando, better than 60% of his games in Miami, and for his career has a winning percentage above 500 in the playoffs, which is really, really rare. So this is a proven winner, and this is a coach who can win right now. But more importantly to us, it's a coach that's a teacher and a very sincere, authentic human being who's going to build long-lasting relationships with our team. And because we look at this team as just now scratching the surface of what we hope is a very long, sustainable run, Coach Van Gundy was obviously the selection for us because in addition to giving us the best chance to win in the short term, we feel he gives us the best chance to build a sustainable winner in the long term. And for that reason, I know Trajan and I are honored to introduce you to our next head coach of the New Orleans Pelicans, Mr. Stan Van Gundy.
Thank you very much. And thank you to Mrs. Benson and to Dennis Lauscha, Trajan Langdon. Yep. Always forget that part. Thanks to Mrs. Benson and to Dennis Lauscha, to David Griffin, Trajan Langdon, Swin Cash, Bryson Graham, and the entire front office for giving me this great opportunity. I was really enjoying being a TV analyst. I wanted to coach again, but only if we could find an absolutely great opportunity. And New Orleans had it all. First of all, a governors and executive group that has proven that they know how to win at the professional level, as the footballs over Greg Bensel's head and behind Mrs. Benson as they spoke indicate. And on top of that, a group that is totally committed to the New Orleans community, which is important to Kim and I as we were looking for people to work for. And then David Griffin's proven ability to build championship level teams, but also we were very impressed with the front office team that he has put together in New Orleans and the family atmosphere that he is trying to build within the organization and within our basketball team. And then, of course, it's a very exciting roster, a mix of very talented young players and some productive, high-character veterans. And then finally, a great city that Kim and I are excited about and can't wait to live in. And then probably when we knew for sure that we had made the right decision, was last night when the communications team told me instead of jacket and tie, I could wear a polo at the introductory press conference. Okay, so I knew right then I was on it. While Griff and Trajan and their staff are in preparation for the draft and free agency, we're also all already at work getting ready for the season, hiring staff, working together to hire staff. I'm trying to get to know our players. I've spoken to all of them, starting to meet with them in person and spending time studying film. I can't wait to get back on the court and to try to build a tough, disciplined team that truly won't bow down. And finally, to the people of New Orleans, my wife and I can't wait for the opportunity to represent the city and to immerse ourselves in the community. We're more than excited to be a part of the New Orleans Pelicans organization and to get started trying to build a winner here.
Thank you very much, Coach. We're going to open it up to questions now. Just as a reminder, if you can please state your name and affiliation prior to asking your question, that would be great. We're going to lead off with Fletcher Mackel.
Coach, welcome to New Orleans. So many questions. I get one note, so I'll try to make the most of it, at least to start with. Was there one final thing? You just went through a myriad of things, the city, Mrs. Benson, David Griffin. Was there one final thing that potentially sold you or that you sold them on that made this the decision that it is? Was it Griff? Was it Mrs. Benson? Was it the roster? Maybe one thing.
Well, Fletcher, thanks. I mean, that is hard because it really was all of those things. I mean, there were so many great things, and there truly was not even one red flag anywhere that would make you hesitate. If I had one thing, I would say that, I met with Griff and Trajan and then with the entire front office and then with Griff again. And so I think if it was one thing, it was really my connection, and not just mine and my wife's connection with Griff, to where I really came to believe in him. And not only his vision for the team, that was important, but just the type of person he is and how he wants to operate.
Hey Stan, I'm Christian Clark with NOLA.com. This roster is loaded with guys who are 25 or younger. How is coaching a team different or unique? When it has a bunch of young guys as opposed to a team that has guys in their second, third, fourth contracts.
I don't know that it's all that much different. I think the one thing is, and I've already talked to our players, and I don't want them certainly or us to ever use that youth as an excuse. I think sometimes you can start with, oh, well, we were young, and that's why we turned the ball over 3 times in the last 2 minutes of a tied game. Listen, they're all great players, and they came into this league young because of their talent. It's time to play and compete. And so I don't want to use that as an excuse. But as far as the coaching, what makes it different is, there's a lot of teaching to do and to bring these guys along. The NBA game is different than the college game in some ways, and learning all of those things, there has to be more teaching. There has to be a real emphasis placed on their development. They are far from finished products at this point in their career, no matter how good they are. And we have to keep that in mind every day.
This question is for both Stan and for Griff. This is Scott Kushner with the Times-Picayune. You've mentioned accountability. I think everybody has already mentioned the word accountability. The most important person, I guess you could say, that all of you have to hold accountable is Zion Williamson. What is, your strategy or your mission or whatever you could call it, to connecting with Zion and then holding him accountable to developing into the superstar that you think he can or should be?
Griff, you want to go first on that one?
Yeah. So, Scott, thanks for the question. First of all, I would take exception to he's the most important person that we need to hold accountable. Part of what we're trying to build here is nobody is more important than anybody else. This is a we thing. And one of the things that we're most excited about relative to Zion is he feels the same way. He doesn't want to be put on a pedestal. He doesn't want to be singled out in any way, shape, or form. And accountability starts with, you're just one of us. And I think Coach Van Gundy would agree with that. It's certainly been how he's built his teams to this point.
I absolutely agree with that. And here's the other
Part of that. I think sometimes when we're talking about accountability, we start to think of, the coach or the GM or the vice president, whoever it is, coming down on people. And that's not it. A lot of it is in talking to Zion and which I've talked to him on the phone. I can't wait to sit down with him in person. But as Griff said, it's with everybody on our team and getting a feel for what their goals are and where they want to go in their career and what they want to see this team do. And then trying to help them get to that point and hold them accountable to those things that they know they need to do to get there. And a lot of times that's what accountability is all about is, hey, you told me you want to be the best player in the NBA. You told me that you want to be part of a championship team. And then you also told me these are the things it takes. Well, I'm going to hold you accountable to that every day. So it's not us coming down on Zion or anybody else on the roster. It's us trying to help them, and accountability is a big part of that.
What's up, Stan? This is Will Guillory with The Athletic. It's been a little over 2 years since the last time you coached in a game. I wonder how long did you expect to be away from coaching that long, and how much has your perspective changed during that time?
I didn't have expectations, Will, one way or another, as far as
how long I would be away. But I do think the time away, I've been through it before, I think it helps in that, you sort of get out of that tunnel vision mode of your own team and you see what's going on with everybody and what works, what doesn't work, things you like, things you don't like. It allows you to really zero in on that and I think grow a great deal and open up to different perspectives. So, I kept notes for 2.5 years on games that I watched, on things I heard in clinics, on coaches that I talked to, and all of those things will allow me to be even better this time around.
Hi, Coach. We're so excited to have you in New Orleans. This is Jen Hale, the sideline reporter for the Pelicans and Fox Sports New Orleans. Give us a little rundown of what you like about the team. Where are the strengths in this roster versus what do you anticipate being some of the changes we'll see on the court when the season begins?
Thanks, Jen. Look, as I said before, the thing that's most exciting to me is I think when Griff and Trajan and their team started putting together this roster last year, there's a great mix. There's a lot of exciting young talent with the potential to really grow into something great. But alongside of them, you've got some very productive, high character veterans. So, with great experience. So that to me, that mix is the most exciting thing. As we get more specific, I think, it's a team that has proven they can play with great pace. There's incredible depth on the team. We've got a lot of people who can shoot the ball. And then you've got two of the most unique young guys in the entire league. Brandon Ingram, who's the most improved player in the league, is one of those, really tall, long guys who plays like a point guard who can get to anywhere on the floor and score the ball. And then I don't even know the comparison to Zion. He's unique in the way he plays. But this is a guy coming off an injury for most of the year that was able to come in and be extremely productive and efficient. There's just not people like that. So, there's just a lot to build around there. As far as changes, look, it's not a change when I'm talking, and I love that Griff started this whole thing off by giving so much credit to Alvin, because Alvin's a guy that I've always had great respect for, both as a coach and as a person. So it's never a comparison between Alvin did it this way, I'm going to do it this way. A lot of it is just where we are in the development of this team. And I think it's clear just by the numbers that where this team has to get better is at the defensive end of the floor. And we're going to have to make a real commitment at that end. From a coaching staff point of view, that commitment is to do a great deal of teaching and getting down to where we really understand what we're doing on that end of the floor. And from a player's point of view, the players are going to have to make the commitment that if we want to win at a high level in a very, very talented Western Conference, then we are going to have to be a very good defensive team, and they're going to have to put in the time and effort. So it's all of us have to make the commitment to get better at that end.
Rod Walker, go ahead.
Hey, Stan, going back, this is Rod Walker with the Times-Picayune, sort of going back to what Will Guillory asked you, but how much did you actually miss coaching these past 2 seasons?
Yeah, you always miss it. So at first, it's like anything, you're in the grind and you're grinding, and then you get away from it. And, for a few months, it's nice to not have it on your mind. But then the season starts up again and you're watching games and taking notes like I always do and things like that. And your mind starts working and you want to get back to that. And the longer it goes, the more you want to get back to it. And for me, broadcasting the games in the bubble and being just sort of immersed in basketball for 3 months there, 2.5, 3 months. Yeah, you're sort of itching to get back to it. You're seeing things on a daily basis that you like and don't like and can think about implementing with a team. So yeah, I missed it a great deal and I'm excited to be back at it. But again, would have still only done it in a great situation. I was not in a situation where I would have just taken any job. There was only one job I even tried to get involved with. That was this job. And it was because of all the things that we talked about before. And I'm really excited to coach this group.
Hey, Stan. Here one more time. You're one of the few people in the NBA who has a perspective of, you've held the dual role of president of basketball operations and coach. And of course, before that, you're just a coach. But a couple years removed from that, I'm just curious, what your perspective is on, having that much on your plate. Not that is necessarily the case now.
Right. No, I will say this. I mean, one of the things I'm really excited about is just getting back into a coaching role and letting Griff and Trajan and Swin and Bryson worry about that other stuff. Griff mentioned the other day me watching a draft candidate, and I started like shaking, like, I'm not sure that's what I want to do. I'm really excited about just being able to zero back in on our roster, developing the players that we have, and getting our team to play the best basketball, that we possibly can. That is one of the really exciting things for me coming back after this short layoff.
Andrew Lopez with ESPN. 2 questions for you, if I may. One, can you talk about the relationship you have with JJ Redick and how that maybe played a role into this? And then when you were talking about the defense, you mentioned your assistant coaches. Have you decided anything as to what your coaching staff will look like just yet?
Okay, my relationship with JJ is one that I, treasure. JJ and I were together 5 years in Orlando. I saw him work every single day. One of the most focused, committed people I have seen in 25 years in this league. And just somebody who's very thoughtful about the game, but about everything in life. So he's somebody that I've stayed in touch with over these last 8 years when we haven't been together. I have great respect for him. And one of the things that he said to me, and probably the most important thing is he said, we have great people on this team. These are all great people. There's not one bad guy here, Stan. You're going to love coaching this team. And so that was meaningful to me because I know when JJ talks about somebody being a great person, a teammate, I know what his standards are, and they're very high. And so that was meaningful to me. As far as staff, that's something that Griff and his group in the front office and I are working on together. And right now, we don't have anything that we're ready to announce, but we're moving along on that front. And, you know, I think we've got some outstanding candidates and some very good ideas. And that should come together relatively soon. The way the NBA is going, we might be starting training camp next Monday. So, you know, we'd have to try to get a staff sometime over the weekend, I guess.
Hey, Stan, this is Will Guillory again from The Athletic. Going back to my first question, just throughout all those notes you've taken and all the games you've watched, how much do you think, and what specific ways do you think the league has changed since you've been gone, and how much do you think your coaching philosophy will have to adjust because of those changes?
Well, first of all, Will, I should be asking you a question. How many pairs of kicks we got back there, my man? You know. Yeah, there you go. Look, the game continues to evolve and change, but some of it starts to come back full circle. So we continue to see the three-point shooting rising, you know, the number of attempts. Because of that, the amount of switching in the league defensively has gone up and changes the way you need to play offensively. I think we've seen more zone defense, you know, and that changes you offensively. Certainly positionless basketball is becoming more and more of a reality. But a lot of people want to refer to things as small ball. And I think, you know, what we're really seeing is the value of big, skilled players. So it's perimeter ball, not small ball. And that allows you to do things at both ends of the floor. But look, as the game changes, you always have to adjust as a coach. Every night you have to adjust based on who you're playing. So it's not like the game is dramatically different than it was in 2018, the last time I was coaching, where I'm coaching a whole different sport. There's just things that you've got to do a little bit differently, and there's some different actions that people favor that you probably need to spend a little bit more time working on than we did a couple years ago.
Scott Kushner again with the Times-Picayune. Stan, where do you kind of envision Zion's role? Is he a 5? Is he a 4? I mean, the way the NBA is right now is obviously so different than it was even 5 years ago. He's a unique body type with unique skill set. Do you have to kind of go through a preseason to know what he is, or do you have like a vision for him in your head right now?
I would say both on that, right?
Right. I mean, I think you have a vision for what he is, which is a multi-talented guy. I mean, he is an unbelievable playmaker for a guy at his size. He's a guy who can take the ball off the glass and lead the break and make plays. He can make passes off of the dribble. He can finish over bigger people inside. I mean, you know, he's a multi-talented guy. I don't look at him in any way as far as is he a 4 or a 5. I'm not sure those labels matter when it comes to him. I think as we study and try to get more definitive and talk to Zion about what he likes, I think it's more what positions we want to put him in and who's best around him and things like that. It's not limiting him to a position. And I think we'll get to a starting point of that at the start of the season. And my guess is, as time goes on, I'm going to find out that he can do even more than I think he can do, and things will evolve from there.
Coach, this is David Grubb with thebirdrights.com. First, welcome to New Orleans. Second, one of the things that I've heard you talk about a lot when you were addressing the Pelicans prior to taking this job was understanding how talented this backcourt was, and utilizing some positionless situations for Lonzo Ball. Also, you talked about the front court and improving the interior defense. How do you get Lonzo maximized in the half court? And then how do you start addressing those defensive problems on the interior for this team?
Well, I think for one thing, I'm going to start with the second question, is when you're talking interior defense, people tend to focus just on the big guys themselves. I would say the first thing on interior defense is let's try to keep the ball out of the interior. If the ball is getting in to the heart of the defense on a regular basis, we're going to have problems. Our defense is going to get broken down, and we're going to get into foul trouble. And those poor big guys are going to constantly be in compromising situations. So I don't think we can leave it to just those guys on the inside. But there's a lot of, once the ball does break you down, and inevitably it will against good teams, there's a lot of ways to play interior defense. That there are guys who are shot blockers, like Jackson Hayes is going to be. There are guys who are great position defenders and really understand the principle of verticality. There are guys who are really physical. There are guys who will take charges, and we need all of that. It's not just our big guys playing interior defense. Everybody's got to be willing to put themselves between the ball and the basket and prevent the ball getting to the rim. So I think interior defense is huge, but I think sometimes we tend to place the burden on that just on a couple guys, like everything else with defense or offense for that matter. It's a team thing, keeping the ball away from the rim, and we're going to have to do a lot of work in that regard. And I also forgot your first question now.
I'm sorry, Coach, but it was just about, you talked about Lonzo maybe being a little bit more positionless, using him in the full court to advance the ball and create those opportunities and mismatches, and then in the half court potentially using him more off the ball. Is that something that you noticed in watching film of him and just seeing that maybe that's the next step in his development?
Well, my initial thoughts on Lonzo Ball are this, on the offensive end of the floor. Number one, I don't think there is anyone better in the NBA of advancing the ball up the floor for your team quickly to allow you to go on the attack before the other team's defense is set. So many times in watching the Pelicans, both to do broadcasting and now starting to study our team, there's so many times every game we'll catch an outlet or an inbounds pass and advance the ball up the floor on the pass without ever taking a dribble. And that is very unique in the NBA. And I think really puts guys like Drew Holiday, like JJ Redick for shots, like Brandon Ingram on the attack, like Zion Williamson, that puts them in positions where the defense isn't set and it's tough to get in to help. And then the biggest step that Lonzo took last year is, with his three-point shooting, he improved that greatly. And not only does that help him as a player, but the space it creates on the floor for your other creators, for guys like Drew Holiday and Brandon Ingram is really good for your basketball team. And then the third thing I would say, and this is something I can't say that I know for sure, I'm just saying this from what I'm watching on film, Lonzo Ball seems like a very smart basketball player to me, and smart basketball players eventually figure it out. I went through that with JJ Redick, right? I mean, he came in, it took him a little bit of time to build his career, but smart, hardworking guys figure it out as time goes on and continue to improve. So I think as good as Lonzo is now, and he's very good, I think that we can expect a good arc of improvement for him over the next few years.
Hello, Coach. Hello from Greece. Congratulations about your new chapter. I have one question for you and one question for Trajan Langdon. First of all, about you. What impressed you most about last season's Pelicans? And also, what result will make you satisfied about next season?
What impressed me about last season's Pelicans?
Yes.
I love the pace that they played with. And in my mind, watching them, I thought they were an unselfish team. I didn't think there was anybody on their team that was a ball stopper.
And that was trying to force the issue. I thought the ball moved pretty freely. And I think that gives you a chance to play really good offense on a consistent basis.
And about next season, what the result will make you satisfied as a coach?
You know, that's interesting because that's something that Griffin, Trajan, and I talked about when we were interviewing. And I'm not a big believer in setting those kind of goals. And it's not that I'm afraid that I'll set the goals too high. I'm afraid you'll set the goals too low. So, you know, let's say that you set the goal of making the playoffs or being over 500, and then with, 3 weeks to go in the season, you're in the 6th spot and you're 10 games over 500. What? We can just shut it down now? Look, I know it's cliche. I understand that it is, but it's true also. And I think our goal, and I think Griff and Trajan, Swin and Bryson, I think their goal as well is, with our team, literally is, we want to get better every single day. We want to make improvement every single day. And if we're doing that, and if we're committed to the work that has to go into doing those things, then the results will take care of themselves.
And also one question about the Trajan Langdon. Trajan, you collaborate with coaches in Europe. One of them was Dusan Ivkovic. Did you see any similarities about the philosophy of Stan Van Gundy?
I think the one thing that really stood out with Stan, thanks for your question, by the way, was just his passion about the game of basketball. His open-mindedness, his curiosity about the game. I think he's alluded to it already during this press conferences. In his time out, he was still looking at ways to get better as a coach. He was listening to a lot of Zooms. He was taking a lot of notes. He talked to us about a clinic that he was a part of over in Iceland with a lot of great names, coaches from Europe. So I think that curiosity and that open-mindedness has a lot of similarities with some of the great coaches that I've interacted with and played for over in Europe. And really excited to have Stan with us and to be able to learn from him in these years going forward.
Thank you.
Hey, Coach Stan, this is Shamit Dua from Bourbon Street Shots. A few years ago, you had a panel at Sloan's MIT conference about analytics and stuff. How do you think the relationship between coaching and analytics has changed since then? And what do you think your relationship is with it?
I think analytics is very, very helpful. And I think one of the probably underappreciated off-season moves that Griff and his front office staff had made was bringing Michael Hartman in, to head up analytics here with the Pelicans. And he and I were actually texting on some things last night. And I started with, I asked him one question, and then I had another idea I wanted an answer with, and then I had another idea of something we could do. So, I think he's in the process of moving, and I hope I'm not making him so he doesn't want to come back because I'm throwing so much at him. But I can't wait to spend time with him and ask him questions, because there's a lot of things that I'm curious about that I think I might want to do differently in terms of coaching philosophy But I want to know what the analytics say about those things. So I look forward to having a great relationship with Michael and trying to wear him out, actually.
Hi, Coach. This is Ollie Cosell with the Bird Rights. First of all, I want to welcome you as well to New Orleans. And as for my question, upon retirement, Dwayne Wade said this: people talk about culture, and it's a cliche that they throw around, but very few places is there a real culture. Obviously, building a culture is a process, but what have you learned from your previous coaching stops that led to desired environments, and how do you think that this group of Pelicans can achieve something similar?
That's a great question, and I think this is one of the areas that Griff and I and the entire front office sort of connected on, because culture, what it really is it's a body of shared values of how you want to work and how you want to do things, and I think that we're very aligned on that. The two real beliefs I have on culture are it has very little to do with what you say, and it has everything to do with what you do on an everyday basis. You know, I've said to people in the past, I started my NBA career working under Pat Riley in Miami, and now they talk about heat culture all the time. But when I was there, and I was there for over 10 years, I never remember Pat even using that word culture. I never remember him talking about culture. And yet every guy on our roster could have told you exactly what the culture was of the Miami Heat. So you build your culture day by day, interaction by interaction, practice by practice, step by step. And over time, people will see what our organization is all about, what our leaders are all about in the organization, and then down to the players. And then the players who are around us for a while pass it on to the other players. That's how you build a culture. There's no overnight to that. It's not, you can only accelerate that process so much. It takes time. It takes, day after day stuff. And then the second thing that I believe about culture is as much as Griff and Trajan and Swin and Bryson and even above us to Mrs. Benson and to Dennis Lauscha, to myself and my coaching staff, as much as any of us try to set the example on a culture for our basketball team, what our culture actually ends up becoming will be what our best players decide that it's going to be. And so those are the guys that have to take the responsibility for creating the kind of culture that we all want here with the Pelicans.
Ed Daniels, go ahead.
Unmute, Ed.
Yep. Hey, Stan, Ed Daniels, WGNO New Orleans, the ABC station here. A lot of coaches talk about defense, and I know it's something that you've preached your entire career. But frankly, how do you get guys who are making millions of dollars to commit to that kind of effort on the defensive end?
Yeah, thanks. Look, I think the money's irrelevant on that point. That's part of the business that these guys go through, negotiating contracts. My experience in the NBA is when guys step on the court, none of that matters. That they want to play basketball, they want to compete. They wouldn't be where they are in this game if they weren't competitors, and they want to win. Guys want to win, and you're not going to do that if you don't get the job done at the defensive end. And ultimately, none of the players are going to get the respect that they want in this game unless they're part of a consistent winner in the NBA. So, again, this goes back to what we were talking about earlier with accountability. It's not me standing there with a hammer and hitting them over the head. It's being clear on what their goals are individually and as a team, and trying to help them understand what will get them there. And what gets them there is being part of a great team. And a big part of being part of a great team is what you do at the defensive end. And when guys understand that, they will put in the effort and the focus that it takes to be a good defensive team.
Hey, Stan, Andrew Doak from CBS in New Orleans. To ask the Reddick question or angle a little bit different way, how much do you feel like with a veteran like him and someone who holds you in such high regard, he can help with the rest of the team collectively buying in and saying, I've played for this guy. This is someone that has had maybe the greatest impact of any coach in my career. Is that something that crosses your mind that you feel like can help a new coach coming in to be able to adjust pretty quickly and have that buy-in be bought?
Well, I think absolutely. Anybody that knows you and can sort of, let people know what to expect. And by the way, it's not going to all be good because JJ's an honest guy. So, I think most of it will be good, but some of it won't be to guys, so you have to take it with a grain of salt, but yes, I do think it is helpful. Anytime people can, firsthand tell guys like, this helps me. And yeah, it's tough at times, but it'll pay off in the end. I certainly think that's helpful.
Coach, this is Fletcher again from NBC in New Orleans. I had one question for you, and I was hoping to follow it up with a quick question for David Griffin. So I'll start with your question. The building that you play in, the Smoothie King Center, is a voting center right now, and the lines are hundreds of people deep every day. You're obviously someone who is outspoken right now about voting and what's happening with social issues and politically in our country. Do you think that has resonated with the players? And is it something that you plan on continuing even after the election?
There's no question. First of all, with the arena being used as an early voting site, I think that is tremendous by the Pelicans organization, by, Mrs. Benson to get that done. Because obviously in this pandemic, we need places where we can vote and yet still socially distance and stay safe. So the arenas make a lot of sense. And I think NBA governors like Mrs. Benson stepping forward, I think has been very, very helpful. And I think for all of us, look, one of the things that I really liked when you start, you go through an interview process, and as much as Griff and Trajan are doing research on me, I'm doing research on them in the organization. And one of the most impressive things to me was, Mrs. Benson being on the board of the NBA Foundation, 8 people, with the money the owners are throwing in, $30 million a year, specifically to empower Black communities economically. So clearly there's a commitment on her part to do things. And that's somebody that you can be proud to work for. We represent, at least in my situation, right? We're out there every day working with people who are predominantly Black people, and you hear their stories over a long period of time. And when you hear those stories and you know what the issues are and you have a chance to speak out and help them, you want to do that. And you want to do it. Dennis Lauscha made a great comment to me when we were when I came in to interview that, you want to do that and you want to do it as constructively as possible so that you're bringing more people in instead of turning people off. I thought it was a great comment, and I've tried to keep that in mind in these last 2 weeks since I left, because I hadn't always done a great job of that before, and I think that really is important.
And thank you, Will McLaren, for letting me follow up to Griff here. Griff, I just wanted to ask you. I started off by asking Coach what made him feel like this organization was for him. Was there a moment when you looked at Trajan or Swin and said, this is it, we can kind of push the others to the side? Was there kind of that light bulb moment, so to say, for you when you knew Stan was your guy?
Yeah, I think Trajan's light bulb moment may have been different than mine. I think Trajan was really committed to it very early on in the process. I think the light bulb moment for me was getting to spend time with Stan and his wife Kim together and really understanding, and he talked about this in terms of culture being about a body of shared values. I very much see my wife Meredith and I in their relationship, and I think Stan has walked the walk in his life on and off the court, and that really mattered to me. It mattered mightily to all of us, but in my particular situation, having also taken a couple years off and had the time to sort of understand exactly what I had been doing wrong, as a family, they were committed to doing this right, and they wanted to do it with us. And when I felt that moment where we were all together on the same page, for me, that was definitely that moment of clarity that made everything mean something to me in a different way.
Andrew Lopez here again from ESPN. I guess this is for Stan, Griff, and Trajan. What are the major, I guess, issues of trying to rush in now to this season if we do have a late December start date? How crazy does that make your lives for the next 8 weeks, I guess?
I'm going to let those guys go first on that one.
That's a great question. I think we're all trying to wrap our minds around that right now. We're talking about it internally every day. I think it's logistically, it's time management. You talk about it when you're in high school. You only have so many hours in a day to do your homework and to play sports and to do whatever you do with your friends. Well, right now we only have so much time to really prepare for this draft. We have to staff. We've got to put together a coaching staff. We've got to prepare for free agency. There's a lot of stuff we got to do to get our practice facility ready in terms of hygiene standpoint. We're going to have a lot of things that the league is going to ask us to do in terms of preparing the practice facility, not only to get our draft picks in, but to get our free agents in and to get ready for camp. So I think there's got a lot of things that are going to be asked of us to do that we don't even know yet. So just trying to prepare and control the things that we can right now and not get ahead of ourselves. But that'll be a challenge right now with only so many days out from the start of the season and even less for until camp starts.
Yeah, I would echo that, and I would also say that the idea of starting free agency at about the same time camp starts is really daunting. To think about bringing people into training camp sort of on the fly as you add to your roster, I can't even really conceive of what that looks like. And frankly, from a coaching perspective, I can only imagine somebody that's the kind of prepared that Coach Van Gundy is. I can't imagine what it would do to their staff to not know on a day-to-day basis how many bodies you would have and who those bodies would be. So it sets up to be a very daunting start of the season for everyone.
When I read the other day that we might even go a month earlier than expected, I was like, wow. I mean, of course, coming into a new situation, you'd like to have more time, but I think back, I've worked for some great coaches in my time coming up, and a guy I had great respect for. I worked for a guy named Nick McCarchuk at Canisius and at Fordham, and he would say to our players all the time, and I've thought about this statement every day since I've taken this job, so for 6 straight days, and this is what I think it comes down to. We're going to be ready to compete anytime, anywhere, under any conditions. And I think in some ways, this is a great way to get this message across, like to your players. When do you have to be ready to start camp? Well, whenever they tell us. So that means get ready now. And it carries over into the season. We got a back-to-back, second night, no excuse. Anytime, anywhere, under any conditions, we're going to be ready to compete. That may be a little quicker than I'm comfortable with, but that's the way it is, and we will be ready.
today's press conference. Thanks so much to Mrs. Benson, Griff, Trajan, and Coach. Thanks everybody for your patience as we were getting going a little bit late. We'll be sending out a HD copy of the presser to all of you via email, so be on the lookout for that. Thanks so much.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.